Hello and welcome to my channel. I have been getting a lot of requests regarding having an end-to-end course on Scrum. So this is what I have got for you today. Here is the Scrum crash course wherein I'll make you learn Scrum in just 30 minutes. So let's get started. Who will get benefited from this course? This is for anyone who wants to learn Scrum from scratch or wants to brush up their concepts of Scrum. So, this will help all IT or non IT professionals in whatever role you are, be it product owner, project manager, scrum master, developer, programmer, DBA, analyst, mechanical engineer, civil engineer, or anyone, right? No matter from which industry you are or what role you are playing. This is going to benefit each one of those who are interested to learn Scrum and want to apply in their projects, or Scrum is being already used in their projects, but they want to understand more about it, they want to explore more about it. And as Scrum is widely used across all the industries, so no matter from which industry you belong to, this course is there for you if you want to work in a Scrum team. In these days, Scrum is being used in the projects for space, for construction projects, for event management, and a lot of things, right? So, Scrum is being used across all the industries. It is not just limited to IT industry. By the end of this course, you will find yourself more confident and aware about the knowledge of Scrum. You will learn mainly three things in this course. What is Scrum, right? From the scratch, from the very basic, from where it is coming and what it is. Then you will learn the whole Scrum framework, including the Scrum pillars, values, roles, events, and artifacts. And we will also talk a little bit about Scrum certifications. What are the primarily available Scrum certifications and how to get yourself enrolled. And I'll also give you my referral and discount code from Knowledge Hut, through which you can get some good discount if you are trying for any Scrum certification. What I need from you is to just pay full attention here for next 30 minutes and focus on what I am saying. You also do not need to focus a lot on the content on the screen, but if you are just listening carefully what I am explaining, then that also would be enough. All right, let's get started with what is Scrum. So as you can see here on the picture at the bottom right of my screen, this is taken from the game of rugby. So the term Scrum is actually coming from the game of rugby, wherein it means that when several players come together, they put their heads down in a circle and push against each other to try to get to the ball. So that part is actually called as Scrum in rugby. And when it comes to the actual industrial world or the project management world, so this is called as team, right? This is called as scrum team. So the team here in rugby which is trying to get to the ball, this is the actual scrum team in real life, and this ball is their common goal which they are trying to achieve. So Scrum is a framework for managing complex projects, and the simple definition of Scrum which I have put for you is all members in a team working together to achieve a common goal that generates value iteratively and incrementally. Here, three things are very important. First is a team, then value, right? And then they generate it in an iterative and incremental manner. So there should be a well-knitted team in Scrum who coordinates very well, and rather than working for the personal goals or priorities, they are working towards a common goal of the team. They are generating something that is of use for the client, that is of use for the customer at the end of every sprint, and they do it in a iterative and incremental manner, right? So they keep on generating value after a small intervals of time. These intervals are called as sprints, about which I'll talk in my later slides. All right, let's move ahead. So, the founding stones of Scrum are empiricism and lean thinking. Let's talk about empiricism first. So, empiricism means learning from past and then applying that learning, right? So, whatever history is there regarding the performance of that Scrum team, whatever knowledge you have from your past experience, right? You take decisions based on that available past information. And lean thinking, right? So reducing the waste in your processes, doing only what is essential, that is all about lean thinking. So keeping focus on only what is required, that is important. Plus taking decisions based upon your history, based upon your past experience, that is empiricism. So at all the times the Scrum teams try to function based on these two concepts, empiricism and lean thinking. All right, let's talk about the official definition of Scrum. So, as defined in the Scrum Guide 2020, Scrum is a lightweight framework that helps people, teams, and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems. When we say adaptive solutions, right, we mean that, as I said, we deliver value incrementally, right? So we develop something that is of use for the customer and we demonstrate that to the customer. Now, based upon their feedback, we make changes or we make improvements in that product. So we keep on adapting not just our ways of working, but we also keep on adapting the product. We try to keep on customizing the product or tailoring it towards to as per the needs of the customer. And it is a lightweight framework. I have underlined that intentionally. So when we say lightweight framework, we mean that Scrum only gives you an outline, right? A framework. Like what are the essential things in Scrum which you need to follow. But how you need to function within it, that you can decide as per your project needs, as per your situation, circumstances of the project, etc. Right? It gives you the bare minimum set of elements, some essential things that you need to follow, but within that framework how you need to operate, that is totally up to you. Okay, so the heart of the Scrum is sprint. It is very important that you understand the concept of sprint to understand the Scrum framework well. So what is a sprint, right? The literal meaning of the word sprint is to run a short distance as fast as you can. So in Scrum framework, we deliver value iteratively through sprints. And these sprints are nothing but you can consider them as a short project in itself. So the whole sprint is like a short project. So you are trying to achieve something in that sprint and it's of a short duration which could last up to a month. So you divide the whole project into multiple sprints, and each sprint could be of up to 1 month. In industry, there is a general practice of keeping sprints of 2 weeks long, but that totally depends upon a lot of factors like how frequently your requirements are changing and many other things. Based on that, you decide the sprint length, but it cannot be beyond 1 month. So at a maximum you are delivering some value after every 1 month. So this sprint is like a short project, right? It will have its goal, and the entire team will be working towards that sprint goal. At the end of the sprint you will deliver something, you will demonstrate that to the client, you will get the feedback, and you will then start another sprint. So we are running a short distance as fast as we can. All right. And as I said, each sprint has a sprint goal. The benefits of keeping a sprint is that it enables faster feedback loops and it helps in continuous improvement. So as I said, you will deliver something after or at the end of each sprint, and you will get feedback, right? And then based on that feedback you will decide what you need to do in the next sprint, what improvements you need to make in your product as well as your ways of working. So it enables faster feedback loop and it helps us to improve continuously. Let's now talk about the Scrum framework in its whole. Okay, so as you can see, this is a picture taken from the official Scrum framework available at scrum.org. At the left, you do see a product backlog here, right? So this product backlog is the wish list, or you can say it contains all the requirements of the product. This is the single source of truth for everything you need to get built in your product. And from this product backlog, you build a sprint backlog through the sprint planning event. So the very first event of the Scrum is sprint planning. So you kick off the sprint through sprint planning, wherein you decide the goal of the sprint and accordingly you pull the items from this product backlog and put it in the sprint backlog. You further refine these items and break them down into smaller units, and you then start working towards that sprint backlog. Now, on a daily basis, the Scrum team meets in the event called as Daily Scrum, and they review their progress towards the sprint goal. At the end of the sprint, there is an event called as a sprint review, wherein the done work is demonstrated. So this is an event wherein the inspection happens on the increment produced by the Scrum team, and then feedback is seeked from the stakeholders, and then we move ahead. So after this sprint review wherein the increment is demonstrated, the last event of the sprint is the sprint retrospective. So sprint retrospective focuses more on processes and people aspect, wherein it is discussed that what went well, what were the challenges, what could be improved, and then we decide any action items for improvements. This is the last event. After this, again we plan for the next sprint and we kick off the next sprint immediately. So when we are kicking off the next sprint, and this time we are having the experience of our previous sprint, right? So we make decisions based on our previous experience. That is what is called as empiricism, which I explained in one of our previous slide. So we keep on making use of empiricism in Scrum framework. All right, now the most important part and the most interesting part of this course, the Scrum 1 slider. So herein I have put the entire Scrum framework on a single page for you. So the three accountabilities, three pillars, five values, five events, three artifacts and their three commitments. This comprises of the entire Scrum framework. There is nothing in Scrum beyond it. So we will talk about each of these elements of Scrum one by one. Let's get started with the three accountabilities. The three accountabilities are Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Developers. Together, they are called as Scrum Team. So now let's understand who is a Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is an expert of Scrum framework and helps everyone understand and adopt Scrum. This is the person who is responsible to ensure that the team remains highly productive at all the times, all their impediments gets resolved, and there isn't any gap between the Scrum team and the stakeholders, right? So this person ensures that the team is functioning in a happy and healthy manner. The next accountability is product owner. So product owner is the entrepreneur of the product. Product owner takes all the decisions to maximize the value delivered by the team. This person is ultimately accountable to decide what needs to be built and when, right? This person takes all the decisions regarding the product development. Also, when I'm saying product here, you understand it as a product or a service, right? If you're delivering a service, you understand that it could also be a service, right? So product owner is the ultimate decision maker regarding the product and what needs to be built and by when. Product owner also manages the product backlog. The third accountability here is developers. So apart from product owner and scrum master, everyone else who is present on the scrum team is called as developer. Developers are the actual doers, right? They turn an idea into reality. They produce the increment at the end of each sprint. So they play a very, very important role here, as they are the ones who actually execute the work, right? They turn the idea into reality, as it is mentioned over here. They are the ones who manage the sprint backlog. So once the sprint gets kicked off and they got the sprint goal in place, they got the sprint backlog, they are responsible for managing it. They are responsible for end-to-end completion of all the work with the required quality and delivering it to the customer. So together, these three accountabilities are called as a Scrum team, as I mentioned, and the optimal size of the Scrum team is up to 10 members. This is the recommended size by Scrum framework, and it is not a mandatory size. This is recommended ones. The reason for this recommendation is that if the size of the Scrum team goes beyond 10, then it becomes very difficult to have effective collaboration and communication in place, because the communication channels will increase a lot, and then it will be difficult to maintain a close coordination within the team. Hence, it is advisable that you do not have a scrum team whose size is beyond 10 members. Now let us talk about the three pillars. The three pillars are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So the home of Scrum is actually standing on these three pillars, and the founding stones are lean and empiricism. So it is very important to understand about these three pillars. Let's talk about these one by one. Transparency is presenting the facts as it is and making all the required information and artifacts visible to the intended stakeholders. So, transparency is all about presenting the things as they are, not hiding anything, right? Not giving wrong picture to the stakeholders. Inspection is, are we going towards the agreed goals, right? Inspecting in a continuous manner towards your progress and seeing that are we going in the right direction, are we on track, basically. That is inspection. And based on the results of the inspection, we make any adjustments that are required. So adaptation is basically to course correct and to respond to the changes. It is very important that to have inspection and adaptation get done in a right manner, you maintain transparency at all the times, right? Because if the facts and figures themselves are not correct, you won't be able to take right decisions. Your inspection will go wrong, and accordingly your adaptation will also go wrong. So transparency is the key here. All right, let's move on to the five values. The five values are commitment, openness, focus, respect, and courage. So these values are so very important for any Scrum team to function, that if these values are not there in place, trust me, your team won't move forward on the path of success. That is there for sure. So these values have to be always practiced by these three accountabilities: Scrum Master, Product Owner, and developers. As a Scrum team, you always need to abide by these three values. Let's talk about these one by one. Commitment, right? Commitment is that each member promises to give their best to achieve the team's goals, and they support each other, right? They're highly committed towards the common goals of the team. An example of this is that, you know, offering help to other team members, right? If they are stuck anywhere, offering help, working in pairs, right? Adopting practices like pair programming and all. So through which, you can ensure that you are not just worried about the work items that are there in your bucket, but you are also ensuring that the end to end objectives of the teams are met. The next is openness, right? Team members and stakeholders openly discuss the work progress and current challenges. An example of openness is talking transparently about the impediments or the blockers that you have in the daily scrum calls, right? That is an example of openness, not hiding anything. Focus, right? Focus is working dedicatedly in a sprint to generate high quality outcomes. An example of focus could be that, instead of having a member assigned to multiple projects, you try as much as possible that members are 100% assigned to a single project. They are working dedicatedly there, so that the context switching is minimized, right? Because otherwise it becomes very difficult for them to focus on the work. So that is one example of focus. Respect, right? Behaving professionally at all the times and understand each other's situation. An example of respect could be joining all the meetings and events on time, so that you are showing respect for others time as well, right? And in a team, especially these days, right, we work in a global environment, right? You have people from various cultures, various backgrounds in your team. So respecting everybody's preferences, that is another example. Also, if there are any conflicts arising in the team, then resolving those conflicts in a healthy manner, right? Talking through it, understanding others perspectives as well. That is all about showing respect and behaving professionally all the time. Then courage, right? Fearlessly doing the right thing while working on the complex problems. That is courage. For example, whatever is the most complex piece of work in the sprint, you try to work on that first, right from the beginning of the sprint, rather than trying to delay it towards the end. If you try to pick it up first, you will have more chances to complete that in the sprint, because you will get more time for it, right? That's showing courage to take up the most complex piece of work first, right? Another example of courage is to demonstrate the increment to the stakeholders, right, as it is, without hiding any facts and figures. So these are the five values. Now let's talk about the five events of Scrum. So the first is the sprint itself. The sprint is the container event that contains all other events. So as I mentioned previously, it's a fixed length, short-term project which is time boxed from 1 to 4 weeks. So you can consider a sprint as a project itself, which has its goal, which has its purpose, and the whole team works together to achieve that. Now, the very first event within the sprint is sprint planning. So, sprint planning is all about deciding the goal of the sprint and accordingly producing an actionable plan in form of a sprint backlog, right? In a sprint planning, you discuss that what you are trying to achieve and how you will achieve that, right? Then daily scrum. Daily scrum is a 15 minutes daily inspection towards the goals and knowing any challenges. So daily scrum is by the developers and for the developers. The developers of the scrum team are responsible to do this inspection and adaptation on a daily basis. They come together, they discuss their progress towards the sprint goal and make any required changes in their plans. At the end of the sprint, we do the sprint review. So sprint review is basically inspecting the outcome of the sprint. Herein, we demonstrate the increment, the done work to the stakeholders and seek their feedback. The last event in the sprint is sprint retrospective. So, sprint retrospective is the lessons learned event wherein you discuss how the last sprint went and what are the action items for us to improve our ways of working. Now let's talk about the three artifacts and three commitments. So there are three artifacts in Scrum and there is a commitment tied to each of these artifacts. So for product backlog, the commitment is product goal. For sprint backlog, it is a sprint goal, and for increment, it is definition of done. Let's talk about the three artifacts now. The first is product backlog. Product backlog is the single source of requirements for the product in an ordered form, and it is always emergent. So here you need to focus on three things. First is that this is the single source of truth. Whatever needs to be built in the product, it should be present at the product backlog and nowhere else. Second is that it is in a ordered form, right? You have the things as per the required order that could be decided based on the priority, difficulty level, cost, a lot of other things. And it is always emergent because in this complex world, our requirements tend to change, right? So that is why the product backlog is also not fixed. It may keep on emerging, and this is maintained by the product owner. Okay, then the next is a sprint backlog. A sprint backlog is the subset of product backlog. It contains all the work items that are to be done in the sprint. The next is increment. Increment is the usable outcome of the sprint, the done work, something of value to the customer. Product goal is the future state of the product. So it is a long-term vision for the product. Sprint goal is the objective for a specific sprint, and it should be always in alignment with the larger product goal. The definition of done, which is a commitment for increment. The definition of done is a common understanding amongst the Scrum team about when they would call the work as finished. They lay down a criteria. Okay, they create this in form of a document, and that acts as a agreement at all the times regarding what they will call something as done. All right. Though I have covered this in the previous slide, but I wanted to pay a special attention on the three accountabilities because uh, this is about the people aspect of the Scrum, right? Here individuals come into the picture. So you have to be very, very focused towards ensuring that in a Scrum team, these three accountabilities are always understood, right? What are the roles and responsibilities for Scrum Master, Product Owner, and developers. That is why I have put this slide separately for you. All right. Now let us talk about the Scrum certifications, right? So there are many certifications available for Scrum, but the two most widely recognized are CSM and PSM. CSM is Certified Scrum Master, wherein PSM is Professional Scrum Master. Cost-wise, almost both are quite similar. In CSM, the certificate expires after every 2 years and you need renewal. But in PSM, it's valid for lifetime. Difficulty level for CSM is quite easy, but for PSM, it's easy to medium difficult. You can go through this slide, and I'll share the link of a separate video also wherein I have laid down the differences in detail for this. Now, how to prepare and enroll for Scrum certifications. So you can read the Scrum guide thoroughly at least thrice. Try out some free of cost open assessments available at various websites. Go through the Scrum blogs, resources, read books, join Scrum communities, and then you can apply for training and certification. So there are many training partners available for providing Scrum training and certification. I will recommend you to Knowledge Hut. And I have given here my referral code as well as my discount code, which is Priya8. So if you're enrolling on Knowledge Hut for any of the certifications, certifications, you can get some good discount through my referral and code and discount code as well. I have shared a link here for my another video wherein I have explained the whole process for enrollment into the certification. That is it about it. If you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, feel free to post it on my this video, as well as stay connected with me through my LinkedIn, which is in/Priya Kaushal, and you can stay connected with me here on this YouTube channel, which is at the rate Priya Kaushal. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.